Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Spectre webinar. Nice to see you all here. Cool. So it looks like we've got the last few attendees just trickling in today. Have we won every Esters? Well, no, we haven't won every Esters, but we've won a fair few. So we've got a pretty decent award selection there. Not placed on purpose, I promise. Cool. So let's get started with today's webinar. So today's webinar is the formula for winning instructions in the current market. If you see my eye line going that way, I do have some speaker notes on a separate screen because I'm going to be doing some screen share demos as well throughout today's webinar. So let's bring up our slide deck. So yeah, so the formula for winning new instructions in the current market. Hopefully you've all already seen it, but last week we released our first Spectre Q1 market report, which gave insights into various different market activities throughout Q1 this year and some predictions for Q2 this year as well, which we're going to be using for today's webinar. If you haven't already seen it, there are going to be some pop-ups on screen for you to go and download the report. There's also going to be some interactive bits throughout the webinar. So keep an eye out for any polls, any handouts, and any links as well throughout today's webinar. The webinar will be recorded and will be available on demand. So if any of you do need to dart off, because I know that you're all very busy people, feel free to do so. I will be extremely offended if you do, but at least you can access the recording afterwards as well. So let's jump right in. So the formula for winning instructions in the current market. So to understand that, we need to take a look at the current market. So let's take a look at our first kind of topic today, which is new listings. So for those of you who haven't seen the report, we're going to see quite a few graphs throughout today's webinar. So this first graph here is looking at new listings, comparing 2023 to 2021, 2022, and an average, a 5-year fixed average. So for all the graphs that we're going to see today, 2023 is the green line, and the 5-year average is the dotted line there as well. So as we can see, new listing numbers in Q1 2023 remain rather stable. They are on an increase, which is fantastic. There's always a slowdown towards the beginning of the year coming the back of seasonality from Christmas time, but they are there or thereabouts in line with the fixed 5-year average. So we're coming into a far more stable year this year off the back of last year's, I would say, kind of property boom. Did you all see kind of a huge surge in activity last year? Soaring house prices, property selling, you know, within a matter of days, weeks. Just see if the chat pops off. Tom, yeah, Tom saw it, which is fantastic. Hopefully everyone saw it. I mean, it seemed to be kind of, yeah, absolutely hectic. Exactly. Cool. So, you know, we're starting to see a more kind of steady year this year. Mortgage rates have deflated ever so slightly since the release of the mini budget. And, you know, you guys have agents, you might think that actually we're coming into a bit of a lull of a year, and we're absolutely not. It's a very kind of average year in terms of new listings, but when you compare it to last year, it does look like the market's, you know, declined significantly. But I think we have to count that, you know, last year was a bit of a surge one-off year. And there's a lot of scaremongering going on in the news as well about how mortgage rates are going to soar and property market's going to be quite tough, but in actual fact, we're not actually seeing that as it stands. And it's actually returning to a very normal sales market year this year. The next slide that we've got to look at is kind of our predictions for Q2. So as we're not expecting any surge of properties flooding to the market, nor are we expecting any significant drop-offs. Now, caveat that this prediction model doesn't take into account any external factors. So if there is a property market crash or anything significant happens with any legislation popping in, then, you know, this model can't predict for that. But using the prediction models, because we've looked at a day-by-day basis for the last 5 years to work out where we think Q2 is going to kind of sit, it's looking pretty normal again. So nothing that I don't think agents should be concerned about. We should expect to see a similar Q2 this year as we have done kind of late Q1. So kind of as and where we sit now, which is good. It's actually really good for today's current market. Now, when we come on to prospecting and creating the best kind of timeline or nurture campaign for targeting new instructions, it's actually become apparent to us when we've done some analysis that targeting new to market properties, i.e. our new instruction letter trigger within Spectre, is our second highest performing letter trigger. And we often see it, or we often hear more often than not from agents, what's the point in targeting new to market properties? They're tied into a sole agency period. They're never going to switch agents at that point. And in actual fact, like I say, because it's our second highest performing trigger, a lot of vendors switch agents very, very quickly. So it's extremely important, and I'd imagine that's because there is a calling off period when you instruct an agency, typically. And if the initial service isn't quite what the consumer is or the vendor is expecting, the customer service level hasn't been great since they instructed you, or the initial marketing of their home wasn't great, photos weren't amazing, or property descriptions didn't sell the property as much. That's probably a lot of reasons as to why vendors tend to switch agencies within kind of that initial calling off period. So it's actually really important from a Spectre point of view, from any prospecting point of view, that if you are targeting new instructions, then definitely make sure, or if you're not, make sure that you are. How many of you, and we'll pop a poll up here, are targeting new instructions on the in your prospecting? You should all see a poll popping up. Excellent. Looks like the majority of you are, but we do have a fair few people that don't. So we'll just leave that running. So roughly around about 70-30 split there. Okay, yeah, so 60-40 split we've ended up on. So majority of you aren't, but for the 40% of you that aren't, it's important to kind of take a look at your prospecting strategy, see if you can adjust that, add in that new instruction trigger, and you might find you'll get some more results from your prospecting strategy as a whole. So if we move on to some kind of more interesting stats that we have to share today, we have days on market. So if we look at the last 3 years of kind of average days on market, and we look at the middle of 2022, which is here, now 2020, 90 days on the market average. We were mid-lockdown. We couldn't trade middle of the year for about 3 months. It was an absolute nightmare for all agents. And I can imagine you all had a huge headache and a bit of a panic during that stage. So it was a bit worrying. Then if we compare that to 2021, when just after the pandemic, those lockdowns started to get released, we had a strong market post-lockdown. We can see that we had a far lower average days on market. And the same again in 2022 last year when we had that surge. Now you'll see those days on market starting to increase towards the back end of the year. That is purely seasonality. We see that every single year where it starts to peak towards the end of the year because of Christmas time. But if we're looking at this year, it's roughly, the market isn't as active last year as it is this year, and properties are taking roughly 20 days longer to sell. So it is important to take a good look at your prospecting timeline when you are contacting vendors and adjusting that where necessary. I would imagine not a lot of you change your prospecting timelines, change your prospecting material that often. How many of you change that on a regular basis, let's say monthly? We'll see what results we get in the chat. So whilst we wait for the chat, so we've got not monthly, we don't change that often. How many of you changed them in the last 6 months? And that is content and timeline. So we've got quite a few people there, which is good, which is really good. So let's just let's do a bit of a screen share now. So I'm going to stop sharing my presentation and I'm going to share Spectre. So hopefully you can all see my screen now, which is great. And we're going to look at the prospecting timeline. So as we mentioned before, what does your prospecting timeline look like? It's important to have a new instruction trigger set up, or it's important, if you're not using Spectre, to target new to market properties. Now, typically, on average, I would say that the average sole agency period is roughly around 12 weeks, can be a bit longer, can be a bit shorter, but the average tends to sit about 12 weeks. So if we're targeting the new instructions, we do want a good couple of triggers before that average sole agency period ends. It's great for brand awareness. It's great for showing how proactive you are as an agency. And again, you might catch some people before that calling off period. But if they're outside the calling off period, typically 3 weeks, 8 weeks before that 12-week period, then it's great to just show the proactiveness of your agency and maybe educate the vendors on how they could, do whatever they can, or get their agents to do whatever they can to help sell their house. Now, because properties are taking on average 20 days longer to sell, we do want to make sure that we are targeting some properties who have been on the market for quite some time. So post sole agency. Now, post sole agency triggers or timelines are very effective. That is when you will start to be aggressive, is not the right term to use, but more pushy to try and convince that vendor that if they're sat on the market for that long in this current market, something isn't going right for them. And there might be something that you can do to help them. So making sure that we've got some post sole agency triggers on there, and not neglecting those as well that have been on the market for 20 weeks plus or 16 weeks plus, because they are low hanging fruit for you all. So just making sure that you have those set up within your Spectre accounts. Stop sharing and go back to our slide deck. Cool. So that is days on market. If we move through to our next slide, we've got properties sold within 4 weeks. So the number of properties selling within 4 weeks is quite a bit lower, as you can see here, than it was compared to last March. And I believe that's down to one particular element, and we are going to cover that one particular element within this webinar. But why do you think that is? And I'll pose that question to yourselves there in the chat. Why do you think that properties selling within 4 weeks is lower this year than it was last year? Hopefully we can get some good insight or some good... Tom, vendors still expecting high prices? Absolutely. So kind of hit the nail there, bang on the head. More stock, more choice, less urgency. Okay, Eva, yeah. Uncertainty with interest rates, affordability issues, absolutely. You're all right in terms of what you're saying there, but I believe the main killer for this stat is vendors that are still expecting the prices of last year. And that brings us quite nicely onto our next slide that we're going to look at today, which is price reductions. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the market report, this might actually come as a bit of a shock, but you can see the green line here, 2023. Price reductions are at an all-time high this year compared to any other year and compared to a 5-year average, which is huge. It's astronomical how many price reductions are occurring this year, and they are trending upwards as well, which isn't great at all. So we do have some stats for price reductions for you all. And that is, we saw a 50% increase in price reductions compared to Q1 last year. 50% is just ginormous. It's ridiculous. 16% of properties that have reduced price have dropped their price more than once. And again, that just shows that if we don't get the pricing right originally, then the experience that vendor's going to have is going to be, a bit negative or quite negative. And that's not going to bode well for potential withdrawals and then, changing agencies, which isn't great at all. So price reductions being at an all-time high is very alarming. So because of that, and because properties are having, or 16% of properties are reducing their properties more than once, then it is important to make sure that within your prospecting timelines, and I'm going to flip back to Spectre very quickly, to make sure you are targeting price reductions. And you can mention on your price reduction content that vendors are still expecting prices of last year, which is why your agent might have given you X price. And you can also say that actually, no, you can try and set their expectations within that letter. As well as just targeting price reductions, it's important to also have some post price reduction triggers as well. And the reason for that is, if you imagine you're a vendor and you've just agreed a price reduction with an agency, you're going to wait a while to see what that effect that price reduction has had. You're not necessarily going to go, right, I've had a price reduction today, I'm going to switch agents for it. You might, or you're probably going to go, I've had a price reduction, let's see what interest that has drum up. Do I now have more viewings? Have I got any offers now we've reduced the price? So post or weeks after price reductions are really key. And then adding on to that, making sure that you're still targeting properties that have been on the market for a while to catch that second price reduction. If that happens, those vendors are not going to be best pleased if you're having to reduce the price twice. So it's all about pricing correctly. And I'll get my slides back up for you all about pricing correctly. So let's move on to the next slide. Agents at the moment, I believe, are in a bit of a sticky situation, and you're kind of given two options at the moment. You're put in a rock and a hard place, and you're given two options when you're going out to value properties. You've got option one here, which is you can price in line with this year's current market. The pros of that are you probably will get a quicker sale because you've priced it correctly. You've got less chance of a vendor switching to a competitor because you're not having to reduce the price and leaving that open for other agents to kind of get their foot in the door with those vendors and have a disgruntled vendor. But your cons for that are they are going to be far more difficult to win if you've got an agent who's saying, look, I can get you 20 grand more, and the vendor starts seeing dollar signs. We've all been there, and it is, it's a stressful process. The other option you've got is you can price in line with the consumer expectations, which is very likely going to be, inflated, extremely inflated. Adrian, you can demonstrate both to clients and ask them to choose. You absolutely can. And you can, say, look, these are your two options that we can do. We can go with the price that you want, but as long as you set their expectations of the likelihood is you're going to have to reduce it, in which case we've just lost 2-3 weeks worth of decent marketing time while that property sits at the top of Rightmove or Zoopla. But I would recommend, prompting them to go with the option one. And there's ways that we can help you with option one. The first thing is making yourself stand out on that valuation in comparison to other agents that are going out. We've got Street Insights, another product of ours, which you will see a pop up for the screen very shortly. Street Insights is our digital and PDF property report tool, which you can take with you on valuations, send post-valuation, or even send pre-valuation. They can be completely white labeled. Stephen, fantastic tool. Thank you very much. They can be completely white labeled, so they're your branding. It looks like your technology that's going out and helps you give a more modern consumer experience to giving a Rightmove comparable or Rightmove best price guide. It's completely free. You can sign up now. There is a sign up link there on the left-hand side, so please do look at it. There are some tools to help you get started with it as well. It's a fantastic tool. And what I actually wanted to show you today is a kind of a brand new feature that we've just added into Street Insights, which will help you when you are setting expectations for vendors. So we are going to take a quick sneak peek at Street Insights. There are, Robert, for lettings too. Street Insights does give rental valuations and yield predictions as well, based on sold prices and rental valuations. So it can be used for lettings too, absolutely. We do have lettings comparables as well, which I am going to show. So what we're looking at now is a part of Street Insights where you can customize your report to the situation you're using it for. What I mean by that is you can use Street Insights reports for market appraisal reports. You can give it to prospective tenants if they want to know a bit more about the property in the area. You can also give it to buyers as well if they want to know a bit about the area. Maybe they're moving or relocating and they need to know facts and information around what local schools are around if they're moving their family, what transport links are around if they're commuters and things like that. But let's say we're using this report for market appraisal purposes. Now, you've all probably used Rightmove Best Price Guide or Rightmove Comparables, but we've built that within Street Insights. And some of you are going to be familiar with this, but we've just released a kind of a new feature, which is fantastic. So if we look at the comparables for properties for sale within an area, based off this address here, and I just used a random address, we're going to get a pop-up now that's going to show us some comparables that we can select. Now, the great thing with this, and it is in its infancy, is you can now filter to be relevant to the property you are going out to value. So you can start finding more specific comparables. So if we know this property that we're going out to is a 4-bed, then we can select 4-bedroom properties. Exactly. We can give a property type now. So we can say, right, we just want detached houses. And we are changing these filters, so just bear with me whilst I select them off. We can even select what agent they're on the market with if we want comparables from a particular agent that we know is going out to value it as well. They might say, look, we've got X agent coming out to value. You could even pull up their comparables and say, look, this agent typically overvalues properties. They've been on the market for X amount of time. They always have to reduce. Just to back up your valuation, you're setting expectation with clear evidence. So once you've selected all your filters to be relevant to the property you're going to value, then you can just select the comparables you want added in to your report, nice and easy, and save that selection. We do have the same for lettings. I know someone asked for lettings as well. We've got lettings comparables in here with the exact same filters as well. So do feel free to sign up to Insights if you haven't already. Like I say, it's completely free. Or if you are on Insights, just take a look and play around with that new feature. I think you'll find it really, really useful. As well as on-market comparables then, to back up that first option of setting expectations, if we look at the raw report of Street Insights, which is here, and we scroll through to recently sold in your area, it's all great giving comparables of what's on the market for sale. But if all your agents in your area are inflating those prices to win those instructions, it's great to be able to set expectations with a vendor by looking at what's recently sold and looking at the actual completion prices that they've sold for. This will help you set those expectations. If you have a property on the market, or you're saying, for example, this house is going to be worth roughly 400,000, but all the other agents are putting it on for 420,000, and you can see that they're all selling for 400,000 completion price, you know that that's your accurate valuation there or thereabouts. And you can give that information, leave this with them on an email so they can access it online or on their mobile, leave it with them on a PDF on their coffee table. But it's just helping you back up that option one of setting expectations, of valuing at the right price, and being the agent that is educational for vendors. We've got some questions here that I didn't see. So Robert, yes, for lettings, filtering is a game changer. This is what I was holding back for, plus PDF compatibility is a great addition. Thank you, Lewis. I really appreciate your comments there. Hopefully you can all take a look and play around with that today. Like I say, Street Insights gives a fantastic modern consumer experience. It's mobile friendly. You get your own lead capture QR code on it, which you can use for marketing purposes. You can put that on your for sale boards. We've got agents who put that on their branded cars. So do take a look at that today. So all in all, although you are practically put in a position with two options at the moment, strongly recommend going for option one. You might find it a little bit more difficult to win those instructions, but if you can back that up with cold, hard evidence of what is going on this year, then you will find that you should win those instructions over. So let's move on to our next slide within our presentation today, which looks at fall throughs. So there's not an awful lot to take away from the fall through stats this year, because as you can see, they are almost bang on in line with the 5-year average. So again, we're looking at this green line, and the 5-year average is the dotted line there. We had far more fall throughs last year and the year before that. However, they are still trending upwards, which isn't great. So, what I'll ask the audience here as well, so please use the chat. What do you think this could be? Why would it be trending upwards? Do you think it could be to the overvaluing, the inflation of property prices, and mortgage vows being thrown out because lenders don't agree with that price? What do you see in your area at the moment? What's happening? Love to know from all you agents. I'll give some time for people to type as well. I'm not the quickest typer, so I'll give that a second or so. Lender vow driven. Mortgage issues, yeah. A lot down to values. This year, not so much. So different in Stephen's area. Yeah, so mortgage values down valuing. So common theme there. So again, that just goes back to how important it is to actually price it right. You know, you don't want to price it inflated, get that sale, and then the lender just throws that out. It's an absolute nightmare. If you've got a chain, it's just going to ruin everyone else's day. Flaky buyers, not as committed. Yeah, absolutely. So there's quite a few factors there, but it's good to it's good to see that my theory around overvaluation and lenders throwing them out is there or thereabouts right there. So we'll move on from fall throughs to withdrawals. So the number of withdrawals is a lot higher than previous post-COVID years and is trending upwards again, which isn't great. Again, asking the chat, love to get you guys engaged. You know, if you are experiencing withdrawals, what are the reasonings you're getting from vendors withdrawing their property from the market? Are you getting a variety of reasons? Are you seeing a common theme? Do you think it's seasonal based? Do people want to take their house off the market whilst they get summer holidays out the way? You know, what do you see year on year? Not being able to find onward properties. Okay, yeah. So that seems like a common thing there that we're also getting through the chat. So that's really interesting. So again, it wasn't planned for this part of Spectre, but of this webinar. But if you are struggling to help vendors find somewhere else to buy, you can use Spectre's off-market focus tool to source properties for them. I don't know how many of you are doing that at the moment, but you are able to target a particular area that that vendor wants to move to. You are able then to filter out property types, styles, number of bedrooms, budget that they've got, and target that maybe street or cul-de-sac to help them source a property. And if you are on a valuation and they're saying, look, I want to put my house for sale, but I haven't found anything to buy yet, you can do a Spectre campaign for them there and then. Easily does it on an iPad if you take that with you, or get that done when you go back to the office. And that will help put their mind at ease that you've got someone actively looking to find them their next home, to convince them now's the right time to put their property on the market. So good to see that we've got a very similar theme there, and we can hopefully try and tackle that within Spectre. Now, there are a few things Spectre can help with on withdrawals. So if I just go back to the timelines that we were looking at before, we do have in Spectre withdrawal triggers, and we also have in there post-withdrawal triggers as well. So 3 weeks after withdrawal. And we also have, and I don't know if any of you or many of you are aware, but we have the Vault too. Now the Vault's really interesting. The Vault allows you to keep in touch with vendors who have taken their property off the market and contact them over a certain period of time whilst they've been withdrawn. So that starts from 3 months after withdrawal all the way through to 24 months. I think the stat there is around 46% of properties tend to come back to the market within 2 years after they've withdrawn. So it's really important to target those. Now, the Vault does cross-check any property against the land registry to make sure it's not been sold privately in the meantime. So do make sure that you've got your Vault triggers set on. Another thing that we can help you with, which is kind of on the flip side, if you as the agent are experiencing withdrawals yourself, then you can look to use Spectre fee recovery tool, which is fairly new into the system. So if you've not seen it before, it's a great chance for us to take a look at that and explore that today. What Spectre's fee recovery is it basically looks at any properties that have withdrawn from you and have gone on to then sell with another agency. And what happens here is it will give you a list of what we call 2 potential fee recoveries, because if you're the one that introduced that buyer to the vendor's withdrawn, and a few weeks later it goes on the market with another agent, and that original buyer you've introduced buys that property, you should be due your fee as an agency. So Spectre's fee recovery allows you to try and recoup some of that potential lost income through our system. And it's a really easy process, and I'll take you through it today very quickly. So here we can see we've got 2 potential recoveries. The first step with fee recovery is to find out who the purchaser was for a particular property. And you do that by buying a land registry document straight through the system, and it will populate a name here. If you then look at that name and you think, actually, that name's quite familiar, or you go on your CRM and you can see that actually you'd conducted a viewing with that purchaser before it was sold, then you might think that that's a possible fee recovery for you. And in which case, you can just select possible instruction. You're going to get a pop-up which tells you everything you need to know about what happens next. So this fee recovery service is based on a no-win, no-fee basis. We have partnered with Sinclair Taylor, who charge 25% of any fees recovered. If the fee is not found to be due, then Sinclair Taylor failed to recover it, this service is completely free of charge, so you're not losing out on that. You're also in full control. So Sinclair Taylor don't take any action or contact any party without your explicit consent. So you are in full control over these. And it's great because you can do it in one click. And I'm going to show you how we do that. So let's say we are happy with this and we think it is a possible fee recovery property. We could click refer to Sinclair Taylor. And all it's going to do is ask us for some very basic information, which we'll know. This is the property we're looking to recover. This is the person we think we introduced. And we know when it was sold 30 weeks after it withdrew from us as the agent. So viewing appointments in terms of business. Did the buyer have a property viewing arranged by us? Yes, they did. What date was it? Did they make an offer on the viewed property? No, they didn't, or yes, they did. And did the vendor sign a term of business document, which 90% of the time they're going to do. We pop your details in as the agency. We let Sinclair Taylor know what the agreed fee was for that vendor to sell their home, and we give them the vendor's details. We can also add in multiple applicants if there was multiple buyers as well. And then you just hit send inquiry. That will go to Sinclair Taylor, who will then be in touch with you to confirm if you wish to proceed with that instruction. So it's a great tool to have. There is a stat here where a quarter of withdrawn listings go on to sell within 8 months. Those could be your introduced buyers. So do make sure you look at Spectre's fee recovery. You will get a prompt here, which will tell you if there are any potentials for you to look at, but it is a great way to potentially recoup some of that lost income. I'll just stop sharing and I'll go back so I can see the chat. We've got a question there from Stephen. What if it's outside your sector? I'm going to assume that was relating to the off-market focus side of things of Spectre. In which case, yeah, absolutely. You would need to look to purchase those additional sectors to be able to target those. But if you do have vendors within your area, then obviously you'll be able to help those vendors out. So we will bring my slide deck back up. So we've looked at withdrawals. We've looked at ways in which we can target competitors' withdrawals, and we've looked at ways we can kind of protect our own business if we have made any introductions to vendors. Now, there are a few things else that Spectre has released lately that we could help you as agents. And one of those things that we have is Spectre's AI content generator. Don't know if any of you have seen this yet, but creating prospecting material is extremely difficult. So what we've built is an AI content generator. You should have a pop-up on your screen very shortly, which will allow you to go and try this out for yourselves. So I will share my screen and take you through it, but feel free to click the Get Started button and try it for yourselves. You get 5 free prospecting letters. And whilst you do that, I will share my screen and take you through what that looks like. So if you're stuck for time or you've got writer's block, which happens quite often, then all you do within your Spectre accounts is within any particular letter trigger, when you hit the edit button to write your content, you will see a pop-up on the right-hand side, which says write using Spectre AI. You'll then get a modal pop-up, which will allow you to kind of customize how you want the AI to build your letter for you. You can have a tone of voice, whether that's conversational, friendly, enthusiastic, humorous, passionate. We're going to go for humorous today. We can choose a letter length, short, medium, and long. And we can give it maybe key USPs that we want the letter to include. So we can put our open 7 days a week. We can put, we have won the Esters 7 times. And we can put, we provide, I don't know, professional, if I can type, photography for all houses we sell for free. There is also advanced options as well. So if you wanted to make this Christmas themed, Halloween themed, Valentine's or whatever, you can pop in a little advanced option bit there. And when you hit write my letter, and hopefully some of you are trying this out now for your free 5 prospecting letters, it's a tongue twister there, it will go and generate your content. So if you go and give that a couple of moments, you can see it starts cleverly and scarily typing out your prospecting material for you. So if you give that a moment for it to complete or finalize that letter, you can see it does include your USPs in there. Now, if you're not entirely happy with the letter that it's created, just hit retry and it'll redo a completely new letter for you, or change the inputs that you've given it straight away. And if you are happy with it, just copy that content, paste it in here, and you still have the ability to personalize it. So at least it's giving you the backbones of a decent prospecting letter. And what you'll find with Spectre is that each AI button is pre-programmed to each relevant trigger. So it knows you're writing a new instruction letter. It will make it relevant to that scenario. If you do it for a price reduction, it knows it's writing about a price reduction. So it's a very, very clever tool, saves agents hours of time sitting there writing content, and also can be updated very frequently. So if you need to get your prospecting material updated on a regular basis, and you haven't done so already because you've been putting it off, get using Spectre's AI content generator. Liking the look of AI, fantastic, Paul. We've had a few people click on that. So just to clarify as well, the 5 free letters is just to try out for the purposes of today. But if you do want to use this, it is available within Spectre as part of your monthly subscription. There's no additional charge for it. So if you are interested, there will be a call to action at the end of today's webinar if you'd like to know more about Spectre. I know that some of you have recently joined as well. So if you're not familiar with that, do have a play around with it. It is a fantastic tool to use. So yeah, we've covered AI content writing. We've then got another feature that we have within the Spectre system, which we've launched very recently, which is automated prospecting. We've had it time and time again where agents are too busy. They don't have time to prospect, or they forget about using Spectre, or they put it to the back burner because they've got such a busy office and prospecting is kind of the last thing that they get to do. Well, that doesn't need to be the case anymore. We have released automated prospecting for your prospecting letters as well as your 2020s within Spectre. And I'm going to take you through quickly how you can set that up within your Spectre accounts. So on the left-hand side on your navigation panel on Spectre, you will see automation. Automation, like I say, can be turned on for regular letters, which are your on-market prospecting letters, and 2020s. You are able to select the days you want your campaigns to be generated. So you can target every day, every other day, twice a week. I would recommend no less than twice a week so you don't miss any opportunities within your Spectre account. You also can ask the system to give you time to review in days. Now, although it's automated, we still give you complete control over your prospecting letters. Time to review means that on 8 a.m. on the day of or the day before, depending on how many days you give to review, it will send you a preview of everything that is going to be sent out, where you can deselect or select properties to be removed from your campaign. So it is automated, but you do get the chance to review it. You can select who in your office you want to review those letters. And if you want multiple people, you can add as many reviewers as you like, and you will all get an automated email, which I'm going to show you very shortly what that looks like as well. Automating your 2020s works in the exact same way, but does require a little bit more setup. So again, we can choose what days we want to automate our Sold in Your Road or 2020 campaigns. Now, if you've got it set to every day, but you don't have anything sold recent that day, don't worry, it's not going to send anything or make anything up. It's just going to skip it to the next day until there is one to send. Now, we can choose how many off-market properties as default we want it to send to. We can choose the on-market radius, for those of you who are familiar with our 2020 service, of how far out we want to target for each property. We can select to use our AI propensity to sell model. I recommend everyone to have that turned on. It's got a great returns factor on it. That is showing or targeting off-market homes that are most likely going to come to market to sell within that drawn radius. So do make sure you have it on. But if you don't, and you just want to do a standard 2020 targeting maybe 20 doors either side, then you can select closest properties by origin. You have time to review on here as well, because we want you to have full control over these postcards or letters being sent out. And that's right, you can automate postcards being generated. The only way you can automate postcards being generated is if you have your Spectre account integrated with Street Insights. So you will need both. Now, obviously, Street Insights is free. If you sign up with Spectre, you get a Street Insights Pro account for free as part of that subscription, which gives you further white labeling opportunities, and you can integrate it with Spectre, which means that it automatically pulls through property front shots that we've got from your Rightmove or Zoopla, your property listings that we've captured, and it throws them into your postcards. Now, this is just a preview. It's not going to throw a property image here because it is the preview, but you can kind of see or select which postcard template you want it to use for your automated 2020s. Again, we could throw in a reviewer, or we can throw in multiple reviewers. So that's how you turn on automation. You'll find that on the left-hand side, just above generate letters. So what does it look like when you've got stuff to review? So if I flick back to our presentation and we look at what it looks like before you review. So you get an email, 8 a.m. the day before, or however many days you've set to review, which will say that you've got a campaign that's been automatically generated. You'll see here how much time that automated campaign has saved you, and it will take you to a link just here, which will show you all the properties that it's going to be sent to, and you can choose to remove those as and when you wish. So you do have full control over your automation. Another reason why automation is really good is that we are coming up to a run of bank holidays. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen the press releases today. The printing and posting cost for this depends on the print post package you purchase. Another tongue twister there. It can be as little as 46 pence per postcard or letter sent. That is the lowest price we have, 46 pence per letter or postcard sent. They are the same price. Going back to what I said there, we're coming up to a run of bank holidays. Now, typically, we see a significant drop in prospecting letters over a bank holiday because agents shut, or even the run up to a bank holidays. Roughly around 23% fewer prospecting letters are sent in the run up to a bank holiday. And agents, it's a great opportunity then to capitalize on that. If you turn your automation on, it's going to continue to send those letters even if it's on a bank holiday. What that means is you've got loads of other agents who are relaxing, taking their foot off the gas for bank holiday and are closed, which means that you've got the perfect opportunity to fire out letters where no other agents are. Plus, homeowners are likely to be at home at that point, which means they're going to get higher read rates and response rates as well. So if you're not going to be open on a bank holiday, which I don't anticipate you will be, flip your automation on to account for that. Cool. And that kind of brings us to the end of today's webinar. We've been here for 45 minutes, a lot of your time. Hopefully you've all found that really insightful. Thank you very much for joining. If you want further assistance or to talk through your current Spectre accounts, please contact your CSMs. There is an email here. Or if you want to find out more about Spectre because you're not using it, you can book a demonstration on the link there below. I'm going to hang around for just a few moments to answer any questions, but thank you all so much for attending. Keep an eye out for any more webinars we have, and have a great Wednesday. Tom, can the property information report be made into a PDF or just like? It does have a PDF option, so you can make it into a PDF and print it and take it with you, Tom. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Lee. Have a great day, everyone, and rest of the week. Thank you, Paul. Cheers, Vaughan. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.